What's up, guys? I'm SaltEMike, and this is your Star Citizen Week in Review for October 30th, 2023. Yeah, I missed last week, but we're back with a big review with 2 weeks of stuff. Citizencon was amazing, and it was a flood of information, but will they deliver? And we finally got an update on the quantum economy, but it wasn't from Tony. All that and more on today's Week in Review. And as always, if this is your first week in review, this is where I take all of the official Star Citizen news each week, put it into one video, and share some of my opinions about it. I also live stream on Twitch, twitch.tv/SaltEMike, every day but Monday, so I can get this video out to you guys starting at 6:30 a.m. Eastern Time. And without further ado, we have so much to get through. So let's start out with a little bit of what happened 2 weeks ago and some patch notes. And with that, they pushed 3.21 to live. It was a very minor patch that came with basically some mission updates that we've been talking about for weeks. The SPK experience was essentially turned into a mission called Steal Evidence. I think that's cool, but it also kind of sucks. I like the idea of SPK being a little bit more dynamic. And then you had Retrieve Consignment, which is basically the SPK mission, but in a bunker. So not super original there, but also unique and making the bunkers feel a little bit more alive, which is good. And then new Crusader platform missions, which really aren't new, and the locations were basically just moved around, but the experience is the same. And then they gave us a ship to buy, the A1. I've never been much into bombers, but it sounds like we'll be using them a bit more in the future, like maybe tomorrow. More on that in a moment. Oh, and there's a referral bonus as well for the hover quad for whoever you sign up until today, October 30th, for Star Citizen. So you want to sign up a friend, you and a friend get a hover quad. Then we had the replication layer test, which was shared with us at Citizencon, and this seems really simple after it was basically explained to me this way. The idea of the preview channel, which is basically looking like any other PTU, is that this PTU is not to be held to any whatever patch, right? It is just testing the tech or bigger features that might need a little bit longer in a testing focus than just one quarter or just one patch cycle. It gives them a chance to gather feedback and go back to the drawing board as well. Think about Ninetales Lockdown or Xenothreat or Siege of Orison. We likely would have had a better experience if it went through this process, right? So think about that and think about how good this could be. And then lastly, the first test of this will be tomorrow, Tuesday, October 31st, with Pyro, and they will give access based on some sort of a lottery system. It looks like Evo will be 100% in, so I should be streaming it, but it all depends. I have some real life things going on as well, so I will not be streaming in the morning. So we'll see when it goes live. I will do my best to be there. Really excited for this. First preview channel, and it's Pyro, so this is super cool. Now, speaking of Citizencon, we have a lot to go over with that, so let's touch on Citizencon updates. Okay, I will simply be giving a short and sweet breakdown and my feelings about each panel. And I am so far behind on all this, right? Like everybody you've seen already has talked about nearly everything, so I'm not going to go too crazy about it. They started out with shaping the verse, and Chris Roberts came on stage to share the current and near future features of their engine. They're once again referring it to as Star Engine. They've called it Star Engine before and then took it away, and then they're doing it again. Much of it was what many of you know are already in the game, and you've seen it, you've played it, but the overall gaming community was blown away by the lack of loading screens and just the straight scale of the game, of course, right? Like everybody is when they first get in. Now, nearly everything in this was part of the Citizencon in greater detail with panels and videos and PowerPoints and all sorts of things. So I really encourage you to take the time out, if you're free, throughout the rest of the week to just check these panels out. They're all on the Star Citizen YouTube channel. They're gradually putting them out. They're not all there yet. There were new things that we never saw before, especially in this demo. So I'm going to touch on those. Basically, we got our first look at the rock caves, and they appear to have multiple entrances. The space cow's in, and the animations look really nice. You can see a little settlement in the background as well. And then we finally get to see the new quantum travel VFX. And it's a lot, to the point where I think it can probably get toned down a little bit because seeing it for the first time is incredible, but over and over again might get a little bit much. Just like the cows, we saw space whales, and now that we've basically approached Pyro, we're going to the jump gate. And yeah, it looks a little bit different because there is no actual gate. It's just the jump, I guess, singularity of some kind. There's also an amazing tour of Pyro throughout the rest of the demo, and it is certainly a cool system. Visually, the space stations are insane, and the next bit caught me off guard completely. Water physics and visuals, they are absolutely amazing looking. And then what caught me even more off guard is the fact that we have destructible environments planned and seemingly quite far along. They continued with more PowerPoints, and I will do my best to break down some of the coolest things. Basically, the clouds were greatly improved, which you can see here. The fire demo was absolutely incredible, especially the way the extinguisher reacted to the fire and the fire reacted to it. And then we had much more detail looking at the water simulation. It's just stunning. They did such a good job with that. We're getting new scopes, much more realistic looking, like glass feeling, and then we're gonna get temporal upscaling. Basically, this is really huge for frame rates, right? CIG made their own version of one as well. Starcloth is a thing. Remember bed sheets tech? This appears to be that. And then there's also Star Hair. Sound is improving even from what we saw on ISC recently. So have a listen to that.
Let's listen to some of our weapon sounds in action. They're a great simulation, but we wanted to take them further and express the sound pressure, the forces being exerted. Our new in-house audio effects, particularly the multiband compressor, tuned by our sound designers, give us this result. The compression serves to illustrate the power of the weapons and the effect that they have when going beyond the limits of the listener. Let's show you the same audio effects applied to the ship weapons, taking us from this to this.
And then they did the server meshing demo, which was absolutely awesome. It showed a great representation of what it can do and just how smooth it was. I was impressed, and I look forward to feeling this at some point. Seeing it is one thing, feeling it is another, but this seems like another year out again. Similar to the PES rollout, the more we've heard about it, it's going to take a long time to integrate, so don't hold your breath on this one. Then we got the resource management demo. Once again, this will be very brief in overview. You can either watch my full reaction to this on the React channel or watch the demos for yourself on the Star Citizen YouTube page. First, really interesting thing is that you can repair components. They had a damaged power plant and they took it out to repair it with the salvage multi-tool attachment, similar to the mechanic with hull scraping, right? Like you would just repair the hull that way. Same thing with the power plant. They had a shield generator that was at 0 health, so that meant it could not be repaired. They would have to swap it out for a new one. I hope claiming doesn't resolve this issue as well in the future, but maybe that's a little too tedious for you. So let me know what you guys think on that one. Should we always have spares on us? Will claiming have less value or similar value to what we have today? How do you guys feel about it? I'm really curious because I like tedium sometimes, but then sometimes it's too much, right? So they gotta strike a balance there. Next was the engineering UI, which is very work in progress, but it seems really functional. You can see relays, doors, items, and so on. When a relay is destroyed, it'll show red lines that you need to repair, and you can repair large components in the same way that we saw in the Fury demo. We saw the room control version of the new UI. I guess there's two different menus, basically room control and then I guess engineering kind of. And then you can vent rooms from room control, open doors, ramps, everything. We saw probably the most important information around this though, that large ships will not produce enough power to run all their systems at once. You will need to choose what's important at the time and put power into those systems. We also get a new item, batteries, and they provide short-term power to allow you to have all the systems you need or extra power into the most important ones when you need them the most, but only for a limited time. This right away means you really can't effectively solo large ships anymore, and that just feels right to me. And then we move on to the talking ship panel. They give a little gray box version of the Zeus Mk2, which is a new version of the original first ever quantum traveling ship from RSI. And then the Cutter, which they shared a new variant of the Scout, or called the Scout, which is a new variant of the Cutter, basically. And then there's a third one that is unknown, and that might be at IAE, is what I expect there. And then they went on to share us their plans to make ships faster. I shared a video for the next 12 months of ships that they're going to be preparing for us, the last one being the Polaris, and then they plan to finish the entire RSI lineup, so Polaris, Perseus, Galaxy, in that order, and just to get them done as quickly as possible. They think that's the most effective way. It's no longer about delivering the coolest thing to you, it's about delivering you the ships in the fastest way possible. But in the end, this was probably the most boring panel because it was ships and we have 200 of them and we kind of know how it all works, right? Moving on to something a little bit cooler, navigating the universe. Now I'm going to keep this one really simple because it just is, right? We now have a mini map, but it's in our Mobiglass and we can use a full version in our Mobiglass, but we have a mini map and it's great. That's really what it is there. You can make waypoints now. Scanning plays into the map as well. We also have a new star map. And my main highlight there is that when you look at a planet, only ground locations on the side that you're looking at are visible, so there's not text all over the place. They're taking what we have and simply improving it, and it's awesome. Then we move on to day 2, and character advancement was the first one, and I thought they were going to start off a bit slow, but this may have been my favorite panel from the entire event. I'm swooning over some of this stuff. The first highlight is that there was wearable and attachable storage that's coming in. Attachable and detachable is important there. 3 different pouch sizes for us to loot, and for us loot goblins out there, right? And then they dropped a bomb. You've heard me complain a bit in the monthly reports about how long they were talking about armors and dusters and ship whatever faction stuff, and then this was why. Armor leveling is going to be a thing from common to legendary, not from a rarity, just from a rarity perspective, but also from choosing certain armors for certain roles. So bounty hunters will have special armor progression, and miners will, and so on. It sounds like an MMO to me, and that's been one of my most requested features. Then we had much more detailed star hair and star cloth demos, as well as an update on the character customizer. The hair will be the basics right now, but more of different hair types will be coming in the future. I know a lot of people were concerned about that, and that was cleared up. So yeah, the customizer was incredibly powerful. It was so impressive. I really enjoyed it. Then we got life in first person, and if the character armor stuff was my favorite panel, this was a very, very close second. Very quickly, they touched on improved EVA from last year, and it's looking even more polished. Prone as well, and then they showed sliding. I heard a lot of apprehension around this mechanic, and it's very Call of Duty, right? And most of Star Citizen's player base needs to be calling a retirement home. So it was just an interesting design choice that they made that would either bring in new players or drive old ones away, maybe. What do you guys think? I personally liked it, but I can see how some of you may not, and I know I did hear a lot of apprehension about it. Radiation effects are coming in with Pyro, it seems like, as well, and then I was just so impressed by the polish of the next things. Inner Thought is dead, and the new interaction system is just so much better. You can set primary and secondary keys for certain interactions. What's even more amazing is this will apply to the item that the other item, the item that you chose, and similar items in the same category. So, you can likely choose interactions for ammo, and they'll be the same, but also food, and they can be different, but all food will go through store or drink and eat, right? That would be basically how it would work. It'd be pretty cool. We also got new animations for using panels and opening doors, as well as interacting with other objects in the world. The new looting mechanics and UI are so much more polished. This is probably one of my favorite things. You can even strip magazines, but we noticed that there was no longer a move all button, so we think there's still a lot more work that kind of has to come before this gets in our hands. Also, armor was missing as well, but it's in first person. It's basically what every FPS game does. And then we saw an FPS ping mechanic that I don't know how I feel about yet personally, so let me know down in the comments how you guys feel. And then next was wear and tear, and this is no longer just visual. Your gun can now jam. There are recoil changes coming to literally all our guns. The LH86 is now full auto. Volt weapons are literally beams and are insane. And the last slide basically represents what they would like to do, but it's much harder for them to show something like that. It's all about feel, right? But the changes sound amazing. I can't wait for PvP to feel more meaningful. When you die instantly, no gun feels different from one another, and I think that's really important. Next panel, taking flight. They start out with some interactions on the door, like just the same interactions that we saw on the doors in the last panel, but on our ships. A lot of button pressing. Next, we will see an updated UI, and this was a lot. Main takeaways are when you change operator modes, your MFDs will also change, and some of these can be customized. You can also cast versions of the MFD onto your helmet, so you can see what you want and how you want it. I love that. They did not only did they get quantum travel updated visually, but there's also a mini game for it, and they show us this here. I like the idea of controlled quantum travel, right? Think Elite Dangerous, but I think it might get a bit much for people given how much QT we have to do now. Thoughts on this one, guys? I could be completely off to some of you or right on point. I don't know. I like the idea of it, but at the same time, think about how many quantum travels you have to do just to get from like Crusader down to possibly, it could be up to 3. So 3 minigames just to get to a location might get a little tedious, might get a little bit annoying. Now, it's not that bad at all. Eventually, like, the bubble will lock and you can go hands off. And yeah, that's cool. And you can kind of just like do what you need to do in quantum travel, like eat food or drink or whatever, right? Then weapon pip calculation is totally different now. It's all based on spread and range. Weapons could like have super long range in comparison now, up to 5 or 6 kilometers, but because of spread, you will miss really often at that range. So our pip will turn green when the spread of a weapon is basically as wide as the target of your ship, ensuring you will hit something at least when you're on the pip. And this should be much, much more accurate. Lastly, is basically what we were expecting from this demo. Control surfaces. I'll try to get the most important details. Y'all left and right just isn't as effective anymore. Roll and pull to turn is basically what you're going to do, just like a real fighter pilot, right? If thrusters turn on, or excuse me, if thrusters turn off, you stall and fall. But when you have enough speed, you can start to gain some control back and just glide. But how do we stop midair? If the thrusters are on, IFCS will basically help keep you level. But they use hydrogen, and the thrusters will only be able to hold for so long. If you yaw while hovering, you will lose control as air will go over the control surfaces, and you will, start gliding again. Then we move on to living on the edge. This was very, very short because it's just settlements, right? They're huge. They look super organized. They look amazing. But the real takeaway there is planning on using rep for these locations, whether or not we can go in them or out of them, and what will be hostile and what won't. That's the big takeaway. They're beautiful, as all Star Citizen locations are, right? But they talked so much about reputation gameplay when it came to these. For Destination Adventure, they started out with the new bunkers, and they're big, but they're very unfinished and still in gray box. They look great, but based on this, if we get them, they will definitely not be the whole thing, but maybe just like gated levels with elevators or whatever. And then they talked about raids, and this stuff was really, really cool. It's not like a WoW raid, but it's more like raiding a bunker and taking stuff from it. There were puzzles, and it seemed like it would be something I would really love to try out. And then Reputation again played a massive role in the next part. They shared how cargo hauling and the cargo hauling guild would basically work in terms of both reputation for new experiences or rewards. And rewards, there was some blue text that said you only get these in game, we're not selling them. And all right, we're going to hold you to that, but you won't care when you do go to sell them, like everything else. But then we saw freight elevators in action. 960 SU is how big the ones that we saw were shown. If we had an economy, this would be incredible to work with. Base building and blueprints was the next part, and this is so cool, which it was part of Destination Adventure, but it's really its own thing because it's such a big deal, and it's clearly an update that will be the most delayed, right? So I won't spend a ton of time on this, as I've been harping on it since the day of the panel. I'm obsessed with it, right? We have 3 location types we can build in: high sec, where your base will be invulnerable, taxes and fees will be high, and the financial return will be very low. Low sec. Then low sec, you will be not invulnerable anymore, so you'll be vulnerable. NPCs will help you, though, and try to defend your base, and you can build defenses yourself. There will be lower taxes and fees than in high sec, and you will have less, basically, you have a better chance of making some money. And then null sec is where you don't even need to claim anything. You just place whatever you want wherever you want. There will be no NPC protection. There's 0 cost, but it's incredibly high value stuff with a ton of risk. And then finally, they mention blueprints. Everything in the game will be made from them. We will be even crafting things that you never thought you would. Ships. Very, very cool. And then we obviously had the Squadron 42 demo. You've seen it. It's amazing. Yeah, we love it, and I'm not even going to touch on it because it's just visually beautiful. It's one of these things that it's a single-player game. We just need to play it. It looks awesome. Puzzles, everything, cool. Then we had roadmap updates, where we had a roadmap roundup on Citizencon Day, and Squadron 42 basically is in polishing and will be changed basically in the progress tracker to only have one task, which is that polishing task. And then they added cards for 321, where ship trespass is tentative still, so maybe we get that, maybe we don't. The Cutter Scout and the F-8C are in already, so it was just updating the cards to show them. Now let's move on to other updates, and for those other updates, we got a sneak peek, as always, and at first I thought this was related to some kind of special cargo, but if you look in the background, it's clearly a sneak peek of the C1, the competitor of the Cutlass from Crusader. Then we got a Halloween event update, and there was a lot of complaints about the inability to find some of the masks for the event. During the ticket event, I'm not even sure you can even find them, but now the Vandal mask drop is incredibly low. Now, I'm all for rare items and low drop rates, but I think people don't really have an issue with low drop rates as much as the really kind of brain-dead way you have to get them and the currently really bad loot UI, right? So this event is basically a pass for me, not because I don't like the idea of offering something super rare that is hard to get, but just basically because it's incredibly annoying and uninteresting to find, right? Just going and looting containers over and over and over again just isn't interesting. And then character customizer, you can save. They didn't say this at the event, but you can actually save and share your creations with other people. Quantum travel update. Benoit, not Tony, shared an update on the quantum economy, and it's on hold for actual gameplay to exist. For the economy to simulate. Now, they're happy with quantum, but it can't really do anything because I don't know, man. This feels like a little bit of a cop-out, as we have so many things that we can buy and sell now. I would love to know exactly where they feel the game needs to be before integrating the simulation of the economy in. So hopefully over the year we get a little bit more detail on that. And then again, ships, the Cutter Scout, I really don't see this one as like they're selling another ship without its gameplay, and then proceeded to take a few minutes to explain it, I guess, during CitizenCon, but I didn't even go over that because it looked really, it was just images. It wasn't even like work in progress. And then it's a starter ship with starter ship price, but with more functionality than your average starter ship. So it might be worth checking out, but maybe not right now, right? The Zeus Mk2 is the newest version, like we said, of the Zeus, which was the original ship that ever quantum traveled. There's 3 variants: the ES, which is the Explorer, the MR, which is the Interdiction ship, which is pretty surprising, and then the CL, which is the cargo ship. On the exterior, they're really cool in my opinion, but it feels like the ideas are starting to run out from the ship team, and they're doing more to fill out each company with options for people, right? We have so many ships that kind of just starts to make sense. For components on the Zeus, there was a lot of confusion as it had like way bigger shields and too many of them than anybody expected. It's because with master modes and resource management, all of that's changing, so it makes sense in comparison to what we had before, but it just the numbers didn't make sense to us. And then the last thing, we had a lore post, and it's just a Whitley's Guide, which is basically lore for ships on the 600i. and, the ship that we were getting 2 years ago for rework, I think. And that'll do it, guys. Thank you so much for watching this week. I threw it together as quickly as I could. I have a lot of real life stuff going on, and it's really, really stressful. So I appreciate you guys. Please hit the like button, and I do apologize for not being there. Hopefully next week we'll be back to normal. We certainly won't have anything to talk about, because I don't think the week after Citizencon there'll be any ISCs or any SCLs or any real things, because they just poured their heart out to us, and it was incredible. I'm so happy with where the direction of Citizencon is going. What I'm concerned about is this is still CIG. This is still the same company that told us everything we saw at the end of Citizencon last year, we were getting this year. I'm not seeing that, right? Star map, EVA, a bunch of other things that they showed at the end of the year. The maps, all of it. None of that stuff looked ready for us. That all has to be in 322 for it to be improved. They didn't say that at Citizencon. So it's still CIG. I'm not holding my breath, but I am so pleased with them sharing the direction of their game. Every single panel mentioned reputation. It was like every panel had gameplay in mind, and that is so different than every other year. It wasn't just visual. And that's where I'll leave this one, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Please, again, hit the like button. Comment down below on anything we discussed today. I obviously missed a couple things, so share your favorite stuff from Citizencon, and I will catch you guys next week.